Hello again. It's time for team training for the Oklahoma Housing Needs Assessment. And this lesson sort of builds on a couple of recent lessons where we're looking at querying GIS feature classes and joining and relating tables. And when we were querying data before, we were essentially building queries using one feature class. And GIS has the capability to actually use multiple feature classes and to search locations with multiple feature classes. And it's a very powerful tool. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is building location queries. And the way this fits into our prototype model flowchart, we're still focusing here on the GIS software, but, we're using boundary data and variable data to create our queries. So I'm going to change my share here and go over to ArcMap. And if you're following along and getting to know ArcGIS, this is some data I got from Chapter 10 in that book. And this is really a great example that illustrates, what a real estate developer or broker might do when searching for property. And in this particular case, we're talking about commercial or retail property, not housing, but I mean, it would be similar. You just probably use different search terms. So what you're seeing here over in our layer list is we have several layers. We have a polygon layer that's called neighborhoods. And so each of these shaded polygons is a neighborhood area. And I think this is maybe in Southern California. I'm not 100% sure. But just by judging it of the names, right? We also have a polyline feature that shows some highways, a couple of main highways that cut through the area. And then we have a point layer called shopping centers, these little red stars, where major commercial shopping centers have been located. And we're going to use this set of data to do a query by location to try to find properties that we'd be interested in for our development. And in this case, it's commercial development, and we have various criteria that we want to use. So to illustrate this, I'm going to go up here to our selection tool, and we're going to select by location. And what you will see here is a dialog box. Looks very similar to many of the ArcGIS dialog boxes. And it's, sort of fill in the blank, multiple choice, so you kind of read through here and see what they want. So we want to select features from one or more target layers based on their location in relation to the features in the source layer. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to select features from, and you can add or remove from features, but we don't have anything selected right now. So we're just going to select features from, and we want to select those features from neighborhoods. Okay, so we're looking for specific neighborhood characteristics here. And we want to build our query by looking for neighborhoods that are within a half mile of the major freeways. So I'm going to select as my source layer freeways. So the target layer is what you're selecting from. The source layer is what you're using as criteria. And then you can select what, spatial selection method do we want to use, okay? And in this case, what we're looking for is that we want a target layer within a distance of a source layer. And so they have all, I'm not going to go through all these, they have many ways to specify the spatial relationship. And in this case, we wanted features that are within a distance of the source layer feature. And then it will say, okay, what distance do you want? And so we want a half a mile. Now we could specify this as feet, but I'm going to put in 0.5, and then you can change the units to what's appropriate. So here's miles, right? And then I'm going to hit apply. And there you go. So you can see here that all the neighborhoods that are within a half a mile of the highway are selected, right? And so you can see these ones that are farther away are not. And so they wouldn't be good locations for us because we're looking for an area where we have, high visibility, high traffic, right? Okay, so, we've used one layer of data to search for characteristics in another. But we don't have to stop there. We can actually continue, right, and use more than one layer. So now if I change my selection method from select from the currently selected features, so I'm limiting my search now to what is already selected. And now I'm going to change my source layer from freeways to shopping centers, okay? And what we're interested in here is we want to the shopping center to be inside or completely contain the source layer feature, right? Okay, so let's hit apply and see what happens there. And so you can see now some more of the neighborhoods were eliminated. So only the ones that have shopping centers in them now are selected. So, very quickly we've applied a couple of criteria to our search to narrow down our search for properties that we're interested in. All right, and we now I'm going to say okay here, and now what I'm going to do is combine this locational search with an attribute search. So let me turn on this other layer that's turned off, which is the census tracts, and watch carefully here. So these are kind of beige lines that show the census tracts overlaid, and so as we've discussed before. Things like city limits and neighborhoods and things don't always line up real well with the census boundaries, but the census boundaries have the data that we're interested in, right? So I've turned on the census tract layer, and I want to let's open up the attribute table for census tracts. And it went on my other screen here, so I'm gonna pull it over. I'm trying to pull it over here. There we go. And so you can see it has various tables here with population and household income data that will help us refine our search. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on my table options here, and I'm going to go select by attribute. So in this case, I want to create a new selection, and the selection I want to select from is households. And so I'm building a query here, if you remember from our previous exercise, and I want all of the what I'm interested in is census tracts that have more than 4,000 households. So I'm going to go greater than 4,000, right? And I want their median, average income to be greater than, let's say, $65,000 a year. Okay, and now I'm going to apply that. And what you're going to see here in the attribute table is it's selected 3, and the 3 will show up on our map. They're actually over here. And I know this is kind of confusing because we actually have 2 sets selected. We've got a set selected from census tract, and then we've got a set selected from neighborhoods, and they're both showing up here. Okay, and so what we would like to do here is be able to see them one at a time. So if I turn neighborhoods off, there you see those 3 census tracts down here to the south east are selected. If I turn neighborhoods back on, turn census tracts off, you just see the neighborhood selected, right? So once again, we are going to be able to sort of intersect these using select by location. And what you want to make sure that we still have select from the currently selected features selected, okay? And we want the target layer to be neighborhood still. And then we want the source layer now to be census tracts. So we got to change that. And then what we're looking for are target layers that have their centroid in the source layer. Okay, and so I've got it's the very last one here. So we're going to take the centroid of the census tract, and if it's inside of the neighborhood, then we're going to include that. So let's apply it here and see what happens. Did it do it? It looks like it did it. I'm going to do OK here and turn off the census tracts. Okay, and now you can, all right, so hold on a second. It did not do it. Let me see. I think I may have forgotten. I forgot to, so let's start over here. You know, I forgot to turn on this little tiny checkbox, and I'm glad this happened actually because it illustrates how finicky these databases are. And I forgot to check on here, use selected features in the census tract. So it was using all the census tracts, and I really just wanted these selected ones. Okay, let's apply now. And there you go. And so now you see it narrowed it down. So hit OK here. And now if I turn off the census tract, you'll see that there's only one neighborhood that has been identified here that is the best one, right? So it meets all of our criteria. It is a neighborhood within a half mile of an expressway. It is it has more. It has census tracts with more than 4,000 households that make more than $65,000 a year, right? So, and it has a shopping center, right? So it has all of the criteria. And now, you know, if we have some more data, we can narrow it down further, right? And this is called having like parcel data. And so I'm going to add some layers here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the GTK ArcGIS data chapter 10, and they have in there a geodatabase. And in a future lesson, I'm going to show you how to make these geodatabases, but it's already there for us. We open it up, and you can see there's some layers in there that are different than what we've been using. And I'm going to select CC buildings and CC zoning. And I select that first one, then hit Control to select the other one. And so now I'm going to add both of them at the same time. And they both come in here. And you can see the data is just for the Canyon Crest neighborhood. I'm going to zoom to the layer so you can see it more closely, right? And it has all the buildings. If I turn the buildings off there, then you see it has the parcels, and the parcels are listed by that we have descriptions and we have the zoning. I'll open up the attribute table, let you see here real quick. So that, you know, different kinds of land uses, the zoning code is also listed. So in this example, I'm just going to use the description, but you could, you know, if you had very specific zoning criteria, you could look that way as well. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to do a different kind of query called the definition query. It's very similar to an attribute query, and I'm going to double click the CC zoning layer, and that's going to get me my properties dialog box. And I'm going to go over here, and you see one of the tabs is definition query, and it's just an open box. And if you're an expert at SQL, you can just start typing in here, but I'm not, so I'm just going to use the query builder, which looks just like what we're using, you know, when we're selecting with attributes. And so I'm going to double click description here. I'm going to hit equal, get unique values. And so I'm interested in you know, parcel zoned commercial, and I'm going to hit OK here. I'm going to hit apply. I'll move that out of the way. And you can see in this whole big neighborhood, most of it's residential. There's two clusters of commercial. This one here has a shopping center, and then there's some over here that look like they're several parcels. But I'm interested here in the one that has the star in it, the shopping center. I'm going to take my zoom tool, and I'm just going to zoom in here, and we'll get close to it. And I'm going to turn the buildings back on, and so you can see. All right, so here's our parcel. It has all the shopping center there, and you can see there's a bunch of buildings, which presumably are all retail and commercial buildings. And then the last thing here is I'm going to open up the attribute table, and you can see that we have all the buildings listed, and we have them listed by area. And I had a criteria for area, so I'm just going to right click on the header there of shape area. I'm going to say sort ascending, and so it starts with the very smallest and goes up, right? And so I'm just going to go here. We're interested, what did I say, 4,000 to 6,000 feet. Okay, here we go. So there's 4,000, and then I'm going to go down to up to 6,000. All right, looks like that one. So I hold the shift key down, and now, you know, if you look on the screen here, you can see that the buildings that are between 4,000 and 6,000 square feet are illuminated, and they, you know, we've got residential buildings too. But since we already know this is the ideal shopping center that we want to be in, we can look and say, well, look, there's 4 buildings here that are of that size. And so now we could, you know, call them up, see if they're available, are they leased, what the rent is. We can drive by them and do some further exploration. So I think, you know, that lets you see sort of the power of GIS, where we could very quickly query, you know, 4 or 5 layers of data and search for what we're looking for. And, you know, I think in our project, we may have developers that are trying to do that only with housing data, right? Now, last thing here before I sign off is I want to talk about joining attributes. And in this case, I want to talk about a join that we didn't talk about before called a locational join. Okay, so the first thing, I'm just going to go up here, select and clear selected feature. So I'm just going to turn that off, and then I'm going to zoom back out here to my neighborhoods, and I think I'll turn off those building and zoning, right? So we can just see all of the neighborhoods. And you know, let's say I wanted to join the shopping center data, these points, to the neighborhoods. Now, this is, you know, I think this is going to be kind of a trivial example, but I think if like we were searching the entire state of California or something, it wouldn't be trivial, right? So it's kind of this may end up sounding a little you know, simple, but I think the power would be in scaling it up. Okay, so I'm going to right click on neighborhoods here, and then joins and relates is listed here just like normal. And so we go down here, I'm going to hit join, and it brings up the join data little, you know, dialog box, right? And so, you know, previously we're joining attributes from table to table, and that's fine, and that's a very common thing to do. But we can also join data from another layer based on spatial location. Okay, so we're interested in neighborhoods, and so it says choose a layer, and so I'm choosing shopping centers, but it'll list them all here, and then it says, you know, okay, select a join feature class above. You will be given different options based on the geometry type. Okay, that's, you know, pretty standard. And each polygon will be giving a summary of the numeric attributes of the points that fall inside it, and a count field showing how many points fall inside it, right? Okay. So, you can see here, you can specify average sum, minimum, maximum, standard deviation, variance, all that good stuff. I'm just going to click sum here. And then it'll also ask you, hey, where do you want to save this stuff? And I'm just putting it in the chapter 10. They have a file called my data, and I'm going to hit OK there, and let's see what happens, right? And so it immediately, very quickly, it adds a new layer called join output 2, and it's the same neighborhood layer that you've seen before. So it has the same shapefile in terms of the boundaries. But if we open up the attribute table, what you'll see is that it has appended a count here on the end of the attribute table that wasn't there before. And basically every shopping center, every point that was contained inside one of these neighborhoods was then summed up in the count, right? And again, we can sort these, and we can go in and select, okay, we want all the ones that have neighborhoods, and so now you can see there. And so this is very similar to what we did when we were searching by location, but now we have a whole layer to work on, and we have the data combined. And if we double click on that, we can get the properties table. And if we go to symbology and go to categories and we go to use that count, we can add all values, right? And I'm going to reverse the sorting. And that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on a second. Flip the symbols, right? So that, we go from lighter to darker. And I'm going to apply there. And so now you can see which neighborhoods have the most shopping centers. So La Sierra and Ramona have 2 each, and then these other ones have 1, and then the rest of these have none. And again, that may be a little trivial, but you can imagine the power of this if you were searching for sites all over the state of California. All right, so that about wraps it up for location queries, and I'll see you next time.